Barstool's been very open about before, and I don't have any background or experience in this because I like seeing my friends gamble, but it's something that gambling was always this huge billion-dollar industry. It was just monetized away from the public eye, right? You had a bookie, you did everything in cash, and now it's being brought into the mainstream, and they caught that wave at the perfect time where media companies are super valuable because they have an audience and sports books need that audience. They have a product to sell, and it's just like timing just worked so well.
Bang, bang, we're back. And as I say bang, bang, I realized that you say that a lot, and I kind of figured out where you got it. I was listening to the Dave Portnoy show, and I heard Eddie go bang, bang, bang. Like, he said, like, it really quick. I'm like, oh, he's saying bang, bang, and that's where Mose got. Is that where you got it?
No, another guy named Pomp, Bitcoin guy. 'Cause you know me, huge crypto guy. He starts off all his shows like that. I haven't heard it on the DP show.
Oh, he says like bang, bang. Like, he like
Bang
does it
bang.
super quick. You don't even know. Can you turn down your mic just a smidge? You're a
I can
bit
do that.
hot through my end.
I did that, and then my headphones are now only going through one ear, but it's fine. I can play through injury.
Yeah,
It's okay.
seems like you're good. So, we ended last episode, and you brought up a DM I received, and it's an interesting one, right? It's a hater, and it's the first
Say
hater. I think you could say it. Do I blast his name out, or is that just
That's
no?
nuts. I probably wouldn't, but hey, it's your podcast. You make your call.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm noticing he follows Full Send, so
Some things are starting to make sense.
some things are making a lot of sense. So, anyway, so I finished a video for a client, and we used a song in like a hockey highlight video, and they release it, tag me, and I get a DM from this guy, and he says, "Yo, bro, I got a question for you, man. I seen you made this video. Just wondering if you could tell me the song in it, brother. I appreciate it a ton." Links me the video.
So nice. That's wholesome.
Okay.
So what's your problem with this guy's DM? He came in so nice.
There is nothing wrong with that DM.
Great.
It was in my request folder, so I move it to general. I'm like, oh shit, I'm not gonna reply to this now, so I'm gonna I already read it technically, so I thought, okay, it's in general. I'm just gonna mark it as unread. He won't know I saw it or whatever. And I'm assuming he didn't see that I saw it, right? There's no red receipt if I mark it unread, correct?
Oh no.
I don't know how this works. I get a message the next day around the same time. And keep in mind, this is a Sunday afternoon. This was July 18th, 1 p.m. He just says, "How hard was it to type war ready, you stupid fuck? Bet you
No.
bet you." This is where he loses me. "Bet you if I messaged you for inquired about a video, you would have answered. You think you're too good with your 900 followers, buddy?"
Ripped ya. Just ripped you on the follower count.
Dude, imagine waking up on a Sunday, you see someone read your message and didn't reply, and you think, it's Sunday, it's nice weather out, it's beautiful. I'm just gonna rip into someone for not telling me the song name that I asked for, and then I find it. What's going on? Who is this guy?
Spin zone. That
also,
might be one of the worst feelings in the world when you like a song, but you can't pick out a lyric or you can't find the song yourself. I'm not backing this guy. I'm just saying. It's a lonely place to be.
It's called Shazam. Okay? I mean, it's really not crazy. Or you just type in lyrics. It's super simple, but
this guy clearly didn't want to take that effort.
Also, 900 followers? It's not a flex. I'm not... No one has 900
of all
followers.
The things that he could have ripped you on, it seems like a strange thing.
Yeah, he should have just said the video was shit or something.
I hated the video. Song was all right.
Well, anyways, that was a nice way. I think I saw that on my way to a shoot. The shoot on that Sunday, which I think was Shane and Pavel. That was my inspiration, my motivation going forward into that shoot, which was a high stress thing. So great that I got some negativity beforehand. But anyways, I can finally say I have a hater now, which is great.
How does it feel?
I really don't care. I've never given
all.
a fuck about the social media things. It's just crazy that it's actual guy. Imagine being that guy. Like, do you think that like I don't see your name because you're a private account? Like, I know who you are. Like, I might
Yeah.
see you. You're in
No, he's
Toronto.
never gonna see you in real life, so it's all good.
And if he does, he's gonna be
You
like,
can
"What's up,
avoid
man?"
conflict. Yeah, no, not a chance. The guy wouldn't even look you in the eyes. He'd be darting all over the place. What? I didn't send that
Ridiculous.
message. It's my brother. He hacked my account, dude. Stop.
So, anyways, just moving on. We just got off a call before this. Working on a proposal, and
Just a sprint.
it was a bit of a sprint to get it done. We've
Just a
been so
sprint.
fucking busy. I don't know what you've been up to, but for me, it's just been like a mad spin zone of shit. I don't know. It's hard to manage. I don't know what to do. But
Yeah.
you said it's been a crazy last 2 weeks of work. What's going on with you?
Just focus. No vision. No vision at all. Would love to find a full-time job. So I've been doing a lot of portfolio updating, a lot of cover letter writing, resume writing. You would just be amazed at how many places are hiring for interactive and user experience designers. So good time to be one of those. And if you're in school, in a program like sport media, no hate, but a great time to learn technical skills. Don't graduate without technical skills and then rip the program.
Oh, I think we got to talk about this. So I was on a shoot. It was Monday. We were just recording. It was a corporate video. My friend just needed help with another shooter and like a lighting
That's
setup
such
guy.
a dirty word. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's such a dirty word. Yeah, I was on a corporate video shoot.
Why is that a dirty word?
You just see the life drain out of their face. You're like, oh, you're making money. It's fine, man.
No, the
I think it's a
paycheck-
dirty word. When somebody said, like, I've never met somebody that's just been over the top, fired up that they were on a corporate video shoot.
Well, it's not exciting. Like,
Yeah.
it's not fun. And it's funny because my friend, like, he's kind of like, he picks me up and he's like, all right, man, you fired up, ready to go? Like, the sarcasm just dripping off of his face. Like, he just ran a marathon.
Yeah.
It's not fun, but it pays really good bills. And it's weird. I wonder if, I don't know exactly his situation with work. I think he said he primarily does corporate work. Well, it's like almost like the more you do it, the more you get that paycheck, the more you're going to do that work, meaning you're just going to be stuck doing something maybe you're not the happiest with, but you get paid. It's a hard trade-off.
Trade-offs are worth it.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
what
think a
you
little
do.
bit of both would be good. And I think most people would be surprised. I think you might have cut out. I think most people would be surprised at like those big sexy agencies that work with Nike and these huge brands. Like they do a lot of corporate work too. You just don't see it on their portfolio. They do a bunch of work that just pays the bills.
Yeah, I mean, there was a guy at Ryerson who I forget his name. Shit, he was such a cool guy, and he actually was like similar to me. Like started doing video in school, and then started his own production company. And he says he has a retainer client. I believe it was like Hydro One or something, like the big Ontario, like fuck, what I'm fucking this up. It's like Hydro company or something. Wow, that was a spin zone.
Terrible. All right, editing.
Anyways, so he was telling me like that's his main client, and I believe the number. Should I even say that? It's a huge, like tens of thousands of dollars a month retainer with this one client. And he's like, it's not the most fun video stuff, but it's not a crazy amount of work, and it like allows me to like pay someone full time to be an editor. It allows me to hire contractors to shoot with me. Like it's a crazy thing, but it's almost like you want to make those big bucks, you kind of have to go business mode, not art mode.
I would say most people would take that over doing projects that they are completely fired up, passionate about, but are like stretched outside of their comfort zone with how much time they're doing on these things and not being paid in a similar ballpark. I think that's fair.
Yes, and it leads to I was listening to of all people, Ty Lopez. There was a clip that popped up, and I was listening to him talk.
Was this a pre-roll ad, or were you clicking on his channel?
It was like him not being a scammer.
Oh.
It was him. Do you know Tom Bilyeu? Do you know Tom Bilyeu?
Oh,
Quest
he has
Nutrition
that
guy.
talk show.
Yes, IQ or something.
So vague, but yeah, I know
his
who
talk
you're
show is
talking about.
really good. He had Ty Lopez on, and they were talking, and Ty was talking about I believe it was like something about like people on average, if they make a certain amount of money, will become a millionaire by 160 years old. And he's saying like, it was like a weird point. I think I'm kind of butchering it right now, but he was saying like, there was a philosopher that said like art is long term. Like if you want to make money doing necessarily what you love. Like it's like this, it's like an insane marathon, and you have to really take your time building that up and not think, how do I get the quick cash, or you may never even reach that place. So it's to relate that to what we were talking about. And that was like a terrible explanation, but to relate it to what we're talking about, a lot of people go, I want to do weddings or corporate video. It makes the money, but it's like you're just grabbing the money and getting that quick bag, when in reality you're missing out on, potentially the same bag if you just sacrificed your time and that, corporate money to actually make something meaningful or pursue something that's going to lead to a destination that ultimately maybe it won't make you super happy, but it's more meaningful. You're more excited to go to work. It's a long game, but people get caught up in that short. Like, I need to pay rent. It's a tricky thing.
Yeah. I don't think anyone has a good answer, and I definitely don't. So don't ask me.
We'll be millionaires at 160.
Yeah.
Assuming
That
you have
just
some sort of
threw me
investment.
for a complete loop. I don't know if you saw the video. I didn't even want to look at the video because my hamster wheel was just spinning.
I think I remember now. It's on average in America, when an adult reaches the age of 60 years old, they have a savings account of $60,000 on average.
Huh.
So if you were to put that in a like mutual funds or whatever the hell it is, whatever it's called, investment account,
or save the kids, I mean, your choice, but yeah,
you'll have like $1 million by a certain point. The details are not important. The point is, it's like to reach those like goals or whatever that you're aspiring to, it's like so long, and you have to think so like far in the future that you kind of have to think like, I got to sacrifice in the now to eventually get there.
People are really good at that, especially the people that I meet that use their phones a lot. Like, social media actually hones that skill. If you're just hooked on dopamine, you're scrolling through your feed and you need that hit. Those are the people that, in my mind, I'm like, damn, you are going to be a good value investor. You're going to hold something long term, and you'll sacrifice short term pleasure for long term gain. I'm not one of those people, so I can't relate. But I admire the people that can think like that.
I mean, I can't tell if you're being very sarcastic, but it does sound like
this is weird. We were talking about this earlier. This is what I hate about you. Sometimes
the dryness. No,
the thing is, difference between sarcasm and being serious.
Okay, well, fuck, that's a shot. But we kind of got off topic because I want to bring up at this corporate shoot.
We completely derailed. You were talking about this corporate shoot.
Yeah.
And I think I know where you're going, but I won't cut you off.
So there was a corporate shoot, and the reason I brought this up is because you mentioned something about school and like people like, oh, there's a lot of people hiring in UI and design and whatnot. And that you should learn practical skills, go to school and learn practical skills. And it made me think of, at this corporate shoot, we were shooting one of the girls in an interview, and she was like, oh, I was one of the first people who went to Ryerson Sport Media. It was the very first year of that program, and she was like, oh, it's a guinea pig and all this stuff. And then she asked me what I thought of it, and I was like, I don't think it's a very good program, but it is a good program if you're a self-starter. And I was like to you, like when we spoke the next day, I was like, they should have on like big red lettering, bold underlined on over top, like watermarked over every single one of their application forms and website pages. Do not apply and join unless you're a self-starter, because my God, you have to, like in any of these media fields, like you just have to be the guy or a girl who like is dying to be on air, dying to do video. We'll just do it during class, skip class to do it. Like it just doesn't make sense. It's not a role. It's not a thing that you can go in and say, I like media, I like sports. Here we go.
Here we go.
Like you have to identify.
But if you are one of those people, it's so good. I mean, I should be more clear. If you are a self-starter, it's so good. Borrowing one of our mutual friends' phrases that I cringe inside a little bit when I say it, but it's a sandbox. It really is. You build your own sandcastle.
Absolutely. All the gear, the computer labs,
suites, those grimy suites where you won't see the light of day for 8 hours, and you'll come out and you'll be like, why is it dark outside?
And it's freezing. It's dark at 5 p.m. It's freezing, and I have nothing to look forward to.
And my phone died, so I can't call my Uber, so now I'm on the TTC.
Oh, just terrible.
Things that I'll never miss about Toronto.
But yeah, I mean, we did. I mean, the thing I kind of fucked up there, because I said that to learn practical skills, go to school. You don't really learn that many practical skills in sport media.
I think that's fair.
You think you do or you don't?
I think you do. I think no. My caveat: if you're a self-starter, it's almost hard not to learn uh, technical skills. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna mess around on a computer and figure something out.
Dude, what do you think if like Ryerson created a mentorship class? Like they paid, maybe they don't pay, or I don't know how they would reimburse people, but like you try and figure out who, like have a class where it's like, they bring in mentors that you can like talk to and like work alongside or like connect with. Like a class that like connects like-minded people. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's one of those resources that Ryerson gave me because I got lucky. I met the right people, younger and older. But like that's something that Ryerson and their alumni program have so strong is like there's so many people that went through there that are very successful in like the media space. Like how do we meet them? It can't just be from networking classes. It's also got to be like, I wish there was a class. I mean, it's just logistically impossible. Would you pay
Yeah, if
people
you're
to
the
come
mentor,
in?
you're not going back to Ryerson to talk to some kids.
I mean, I'd kind of be down if there was like some kind of incentive. Like think about like the like if you met someone who's really talented, really young, and you got to work with
You
them
could just
and like,
squeeze all the life out of them.
oh,
I want all of your ideas and your energy. And I know that you have no expectations for what you should be paid. So we're just going to do this as long as possible.
why does it go so negative
That
with you,
sounds
bro?
terrible. Here's my
That is
beef with that. That
disgusting.
sounds terrible if it's an individual on another individual. But literally in the program that we went to, that was the expectation if you wanted to work at a sports network. And it
Yeah,
doesn't sound bad if you're an institution. It sounds terrible if you're like a person doing that to another person, though.
it is kind of true if you think about it. Institutions just hire people and then like suck everything out of them. It's kind of like Barstool when us in Portnoy talked to the employees. Like I remember hearing one of the employees talking about how someone on the main Barstool Twitter account, they've obviously followed the employees, so he saw one of the employees' tweets and it was a funny joke about a sporting event. The Barstool account takes pretty much copies the exact same tweet, not pretty
Yep.
much, verbatim copies it, posts it on the main Twitter, and doesn't credit the
Yep.
employee as a joke. And then they talk about it on the show, and Portnoy's like, well, who do you work for?
Yeah.
You work for Barstool. We don't credit everyone for
If you're
everything.
the employee, I don't think that you can get mad that your company stole your tweet.
But is that kind of fucked up in a way? Like,
Well, yeah.
shouldn't there be some kind of credit? Like, why is it always business first? I feel like that. Although here's the thing, Barstool's really big, so it kind of feels grosser. But if it was a small, like close knit group of guys, like I feel like it'd be less of a problem if you didn't tag them.
Uh-huh.
If it's a smaller organization, like there's more personality and like family aspect to it. But
I wish I
Barstool,
had some kind of principled stance on this, but I don't.
yeah, I just don't know. Oh, wait a sec. Did you see the new thing? What is Barstool doing now? Didn't Portnoy like
Oh,
announce?
they got a college football game that they're gonna stream, which is huge news because ESPN has just had a stranglehold on that whole sport, which I think a lot of people, especially in Canada, they don't. I think people in the US are much more aware of how big it is, but in Canada, we just don't care that much about it because, I mean, the CFL is the pinnacle here, or university football, for most people. But I mean, it's a huge business, billions and billions of dollars, and so ESPN's basically been or had a monopoly on it
Yeah.
for decades.
So Barstool is the presenting sponsor, or are they also
I
broadcasting?
think they're
Like,
broadcasting it. I
so
think that's why it's a big deal.
there's no. I mean, okay, hold up for a second. Have you seen their video content and their quality?
This is what I love about them. I love that they can be so bad and yet still succeed. It just goes to show you how much the person matters now. Like we
How
want to see people. The
how much does that
personality.
translate though into like
Well, I think the
broadcast
production
television?
has to be good. Jesus.
Uh
Choked
oh.
on my own spit. Hello. The production has to be good. I think we've seen that.
So do they outsource or do they get
Yeah, I
Glenny
think they
balls on the
have to.
switcher?
I think they have to. It'll be a nice blend, I think, between. Well, I do think they'll outsource production because they don't have those I don't think they have those capabilities to do live production. I think they can do shoot. I mean, I think they can do shows. And what's it called? I'm kind of blanking on the word. What's the difference between? I mean, it's live sports. I don't think they have the capabilities to do live sports, but I think what'll make it fun and charming is that they'll integrate their personalities in interesting ways.
Well, think about because they like their best. aspect of Barstool is like the talent. How cool is it? Because like a traditional like football game coverage, there's like the front desk, and then there's people down in the field, like several
Yeah.
reporters on the field, and then maybe they'll incorporate like creative ideas where they have people in the stands, like beer chuggings. Like there's
Yeah.
so much
It could
potential
be madness.
for them to put on an absolute gong show in all the right ways.
Yeah.
I mean that with all the positivity in the world. Like think about what they could possibly do. Their talent runs deep. Like maybe they have people who don't even know football go on just as like a joke. You know what I mean? Like as like a segment. Like that'd be so funny. But good for them. I guess is that a ESPN play? Is that a rather what I mean to say is that a play to compete against those networks, or is it a play like I don't understand what's the industry they're stepping into? Like broadcast or just live events or
No,
both?
I think it's live events. When I was thinking about have they done live events before, they have Rough and Rowdy where they just get their employees to fight each other, and maybe not employees, they get other people as well. So they've done that. I don't think they want to be ESPN. I think they would like a piece of that pie, but I don't think they want the whole pie in live sports because they have such a strong foothold in other places. I think live sports will be complementary, like you said earlier about their personalities. Television still has such great distribution and penetration, especially with older people, um, that I think it's a complement to everything else they're doing with merchandise, with growing their personalities and podcasts and all the media stuff that they have going on. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it'll be ever be the main thing, but I think if you look at it from the other side, them getting a live sports, a big event in live sports is probably not a good sign for these television networks, because when the sports rights go, it's going to be game over. I think they're worth like, I don't know the exact number, but if I had to ballpark live sports are worth like 60 to 70-ish, 80-ish% of any regular person's cable subscription. They're just kind of like the linchpin that's holding everything together. And I think those deals are expiring 2025 maybe at the latest. So I think we're in for a real interesting next kind of 5 years within live sports. And a lot of people thought it was going to be the tech networks like Twitter and Facebook
Yeah.
who are going to buy those rights, but I don't think that's really come to fruition. I think Amazon's pushing the strongest in that thing, but I think it's going to be the Wild West. I don't think that um, the traditional networks can keep doing the same things because people are just cutting the cord. So it's going to open the door for people like Barstool or whoever has a really strong, passionate fan base to go in and say, I don't want to do it all. I just want to have this event or this event. And they can kind of pick and choose what they want to do.
It
It was
just seems
such a
like
long answer.
no, but it just seems like such a risk on Barstool's like part. I just don't like how do they know that this is actually going to make them money, or is it just an awareness play? Because
I think it's a compliment. I think it helps grow their other businesses. And it's one of those situations where maybe the thing I think of, and I don't, it's not a one-to-one, it doesn't map very neatly one-to-one, but Amazon makes a lot of money from products, but for years, they lost a lot of money on prime shipping and building all the infrastructure for that. This might be a play where they lose money on the event, but make money overall.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see like the next 10 years of Barstool. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they like overtake ESPN in the next 10, 20 years. Yeah. Like, it's gonna be such a crazy world, and I almost think ESPN it started formal, whereas Barstool didn't, and it kind of is controlled, I think, by a lot of like influencers and stakeholders. Whereas I don't think Barstool's that controlled. Maybe by Penn, obviously, because they're like a majority owner. But they're also in the gambling space, and I feel like gambling is not really PC or like, tries to hold up to certain standards. It was so
hidden from sports from so long. Like it was just this like unheard, unspoken about thing.
But with Barstool getting bigger, you think, oh, the bigger something gets, the more watered down it is, the less authentic, the less real, the more pandering, the more et cetera, et cetera. Barstool still has never really pandered. Do you think they pander when / if they surpass an ESPN? A sports center, whatever.
I think gambling will just be more tightly integrated and the connections make a lot of sense.
No, but I'm not trying to say only gambling. I was just saying that the gambling side, the Penn National is the majority stakeholder in Barstool, and they would
Right.
have a lot of say in decision making. Correct?
Right.
But they really, I don't. It doesn't seem like they've been holding Barstool back in any kind of way. Whereas you
No.
look at ESPN, they reached a certain market share. They're massive. They pander towards all the social issues.
Yeah.
They kind of, I think they aren't as authentic and real as like a Barstool. They don't. They're like trying to speak for people, whereas Barstool
I
I don't
think
think tries
most
to
people would
speak.
say that. That's fair. I
So,
think most
but
people would
does
say that ESPN
Barstool
panders.
they 100% do, but does Barstool pander when they reach that size? When and if they reach that size? Makes me think.
I I would say I don't know. My guess is as good as anyone else's. I would say that they would have to get a lot bigger for that to happen. Because at their current size, I think um, even with adding a bunch of hundreds of employees, there's still pretty tight grip on I haven't felt that they've lost their voice in any significant way.
But do you think, in a general stance, do you think you can become as big as an ESPN, as big as like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, or as big as insert massive personality or platform without being ultra PC, worrying about stakeholders and advertisers and et cetera and so on and so on? Like, do you think you can actually just do what you want always on your terms and become that big? Or do you think inevitably when you become a $1 billion company, you're going to get pulled in 1,000 different directions and then you end up just doing the safe play every time? Because Barstool's still not that massive. It's fucking huge, but it's not that $1 billion range, right?
Yeah, the answer, and again, my answer is as good as anyone else's because I'm not inside that company, so I wouldn't have a great sense. But here are some things that I think makes Barstool unique, and this is the progression that I've seen a lot of people follow. Because I guess from outsiders, there's always that perspective of, oh, they've been historically so, some people say misogynistic, some people say offensive, whatever they want to say. But then you start listening to one show because you're really into college football or college baseball, or for us, it was Spit and Chicklets. So you're really into hockey. You're like, I love this show. I'm not a Barstool person, but I like this show. And that can be said for hundreds of different niches and interests, right? They have a football podcast, they have an outdoor show. So whatever your initial interest is, that's kind of the entry point into them. And then from there, I think they do a great job of cross pollinating and doing guests and collabs and here and then, oh, now I'm listening to Pardon My Take, now I'm listening to another show. And you slowly get into the Barstool universe, much like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They can kind of build out. um, so I think they're really, the point that I'm trying to make is they're really decentralized in that way, right? There's so many different kind of interests and personalities that people latch onto, that saying that you associate with bars, I don't think a lot of people say they're Barstool people. They say, I'm a Spit and Chicklets, I'm a PMT, I'm a Chicks in the Office, I'm a Caller Daddy person. And then they kind of build more interest or follow more things from there. And then the other thing with not being PCs, I think their identity and the start of the company was so rooted in not conforming to social pressures, that bodes really well for them to stay true to who they are. I think if you don't have a strong opinion, or if somebody can't point at your company and say they stand for this, then it's really easy to get kind of pushed around in the winds of social change and say, oh, we have to support this because everyone's supporting this. Oh, we have to get behind this person because everyone thinks that mental health is super important. And this isn't a shot at mental health. Everyone thinks mental health is super important, and this person pulled out of the Olympics because of their mental health, right? And now everyone has to back this person. So I think this is not just specific to Barstool. Whatever whatever the company starts as, that foundation of the company story, that first word, that sentence that comes to mind when you think of a company, if it takes a really strong stance and they stand for something, they have an opinion on something, I think that's just that creates a really tight roadmap for kind of how that company evolves, no matter how many employees are there. So that'd be my two things. One, they're super decentralized. Barstool is this overarching identity for an umbrella of hundreds of smaller brands that have turned really big. And they have a really strong identity, whether you like it or whether you hate it. I mean, there's tons of people on both sides of the
Oh,
spectrum. Um, it's that identity that I think, regardless of how you feel about them, that'll keep them anchored in what they stand for and what kind of content they make.
yeah, I was going to say, I remember hanging out with some friends and there was two girls there that are a friend of mine, and I don't really know them that well, and they were drinking Pink Whitney, and then I was like, oh, you guys
You must be a fan.
do you guys know like that like podcast or whatever? They're like, oh no, like what is it? I'm like, they knew of Barstool, and I was just like, oh yeah, I love the podcast, and like I like Barstool, and they're like, oh, you like Barstool?
And you could
And they
tell in
said
like
it.
the tone of their voice and the expression on their face. You're like, can't really wade into these waters too deeply.
The tone said everything. I'm like, when has a network? Because realistically, it's a network now. It's a media company.
Yep,
When is a media
absolutely.
company? Well, I guess Fox News has that kind of like
It's funny
tonality.
that you brought
But
up
like,
Fox News because I think Fox News was the first. Keep going though.
yeah. But like, when is like a sport company like that? I guess it's a sport, lifestyle, everything company. Like invoke a reaction like that out of someone where it's like you get judged for being a fan of it. Like no one's like, oh, you like ESPN? You know, no one says that.
No, it's. I
No one
think
cares.
ESPN is wallpaper at this point.
Yeah. Well, they just deliver the news with their a slight
Yeah.
editorial, but they're I don't know. It's a weird thing. But this kind of leads into what I wanted to talk about next, which is, you know, experimentation and like play and like kind of expanding what you're doing. And I think we've both been in this recently, this like work mode where it's like you're just kind of in the trenches. And then I kind of extrapolate and think about like a guy like Dave Portnoy. I think this guy works like all day, every day. And he was like at a point where he was grinding, not much vision. I'm like, how did you build this vision while also being in the trenches so often? And he doesn't seem like a guy who's like, I optimize my days and reflect and have a journal. Like, is it just intuition, or does this guy like, is he just a special person? How does this person go from in the trenches to up on the top of the hill to plan like the next attack of his army of people in the Barstool scene? Because I'll be honest, I've been in the trenches, and like sometimes I take my head up and I'm like, wait, where am I? I've just
It's like
been
you're breathing for air when you're holding your breath underwater.
ex- exactly. I just feel like I've been like digging a trench, or I've been digging like I'm like an ant digging tunnels, and like I come up and I'm like, wait, I'm like 100 meters away from where I started. I don't even know where I am. There's like no direction of what I want to do, you know?
This is going to sound like so off topic and not related to creativity at all, but I think everything starts with, are you listening to your body or not? Not in the physical sense of like your body is always sending you signals for if you're feeling stressed out because you've been working too hard, or you're feeling like some anxiety or some confusion because you haven't prioritized your time and you feel like you're missing something. So I think it starts there. And if you don't give your body a voice, whether that's spending too much time up in the clouds and you're just the vision guy and you're like, I'm going to take over the world. I just need to do these 99 steps that I've perfectly mapped out and strategized. Or on the opposite end, you're just the person that throws themselves into action blindly because action feels good and you don't want to slow down and kind of like check where you're at. If you're on either of those sides of the spectrum and you're not listening to yourself, I think that's when you get into trouble. So that would be
Mm-hmm.
my answer. It's like high level, but I think everything starts with giving your body a voice and being able to listen. And I think that my controversial take of this episode is that most people for many years, and even now myself included, don't give their body a voice, and they just see themselves as kind of a tool or a means to an end, whether that's being super productive creatively or whatever your goal is. When you don't give your body a voice, I think it leads to bad things.
Well, the tricky thing is, I think we see a lot of people who maybe they don't, or maybe it's that they don't appear to give their body a voice. They just go, 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 go,
Mm-hmm.
and don't think. You know what I mean? I think we kind of consume people those who just go, 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 kind of consume people who think like, I don't think Dave Portnoy is reflecting in a journal on what's going on. You know what I
No.
mean? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Or maybe he just talks to people who are equally as inspired and equally as interested in what they're doing, and those ideas bounce off each other, and then through osmosis of being side by side, you kind of just without realizing
It's a
build
great
a
word.
vision.
That's a
Yeah,
Scrabble
you're
word right
welcome.
there.
$10 word right there.
You're
How
welcome.
are you?
Here's what I want to say. I don't want to cut you off. But here's what I want to say about Portnoy. I do think that on top of everything that's happened and like all the credit, I think he's become like one of the most idolized American business people of his generation. So I think give him his credit there. Where he did get lucky in the same way that Bleacher Report got lucky because they were kind of the first to providing sports coverage on the internet is that all of the big networks did not give one shit about gambling. He came around, I think he started Barstool in the early 2000s. Someone's going to sewer me in the comment. Well, nobody listens, so it's fine. Um, he started Barstool in the early 2000s when nobody cared about gambling. And then this is where I will give him credit, had the ability to stay with that as an entrepreneur and probably handle, like, I think there's funny stories of him like trucking around Boston in an Astro van that if somebody saw and didn't know, they'd be like, oh, a pedophile lives in that van. Somebody should go check on that guy. He was going around in an Astro van delivering these newspapers. With no kind of any sense or markers that there would be a return on his time and his investment. So I think it's that you got extremely lucky and that he was super passionate about gambling in a time and space where nobody else was. It was being completely ignored, and that he was able to sustain the uncertainty, the anxiety. I'm sure there's people in his ear saying, Portnoy, you suck. You're a bum. What are you doing with your life? He was able to sustain through that, and he's created this monster. But
I do.
it's like the conditions and the luck and the perseverance and all of that have, it's not just one thing that you can point at and say, oh, that's what you to do. It's all contextual. It's all being the right person at the right time at the right opportunity, right? There's so much that goes into it.
It's like I think what's not spoken enough is like the luck of meeting certain people. Like that luck in being around them is so huge. I feel like, personally speaking, when we were at Ryerson, it was like you, me, and then Cameron, Ryan Ward. I'd be around all these people, and even like Juan, I'd be around. Or there's just tons of people I'm like always kind of around and talking to. Morsey as well, and like you're kind of bouncing ideas off each other, or maybe just shooting the shit regularly. And like through all these like conversations, like I feel like that's like when we would have vision chats or like perspective chats, like where do we stand in the world? Am I happy with what I'm doing? Am I not? Do I feel behind or ahead of people? It kind of gives you this like stability, whereas now is in this like isolated world with, I know COVID's kind of chilled out in Toronto a bit, but I still feel pretty isolated with just there's no community hubs anymore. It feels like you kind of lose your way a bit, and you just kind of fall into this like work mindset, and it's almost personally pushed me into thinking like I kind of want to be an employee a little bit. I don't know. Like I kind of just don't want to deal with this or like somehow get it. I don't know. You kind of have to get a team or something. But just to tie it back to the poor night running around in the van, I do wonder if he's like one of those guys who had like notebooks of where he wanted to go.
I'm surprised that's not me. I'm gonna be honest. That's a win for that's a +1 for me. Usually it's me and my phone going off for if I was being unclear. So go team Mose. Yeah, I do wonder if he's one of those people that I don't think so. I think it was just honestly from the videos that I've seen, he's one of the all-time salespeople and entertainers and ability to sell a message and keep people engaged. You can't dispute that. It's also this incredible passion for gambling and the ability to grow a community around that because that community was very much in the dark and they were ignored by everyone else. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like this gaping hole, this gap in the media coverage of sports. And it was something that I think they've talked about. Barstool's been very open about before, and I don't have any background or experience in this because I like seeing my friends gamble because it's pure entertainment. I don't gamble myself on sports, but it's something that gambling was always this huge $1 billion industry. It was just monetized away from the public eye, right? You had a bookie, you did everything in cash. And now it's being brought into the mainstream, and they caught that wave at the perfect time where media companies are super valuable because they have an audience, and sports books need that audience. They have a product to sell, and it's just like timing just worked so well.
Mm-hmm. But the whole gambling thing, I understand why it was away, and I think we're just becoming more like accepting and like liberal with what we're allowing society to do in a certain way. Because if you think about gambling, it's kind of messed. It's an addiction. It's like And nowadays you got Roobet. I don't know if you heard of Roobet. It's like a crypto.
I can't believe we're touching on this, but they're like honey now. I see them sponsoring all the big YouTubers.
Dude, you anyone with a wallet can gamble, and any
Yeah.
kid can gamble because they can just create a wallet, get their mom's money or whatever, and you don't have to be a certain age. You just need a wallet, I believe. I don't think it's the same authenticator as like a Bet365. I might be wrong, but I was watching Aiden Ross like get grilled on, like he was like advertising to his viewership, which were like all kids, about yeah, I'm gambling with Roobet, and like imagine that emotional high and low roller coaster as a kid to gamble, like what that could do to your brain.
Yeah.
Like
Scary.
it's crazy.
Scary.
Well, anyways, Mose, this is a great episode. Another one in the books. I'm gonna try and get a guest for next week. I've just been so fucking busy. I feel like it's just been impossible to get people on. Gotta figure out the time management thing. It's
Build a team.
it's
Delegate.
yeah. I mean, and then you get a job, and then this podcast is gonna die and turn into dust.
Oh no.
'Cause
you can't say that.
If you're working 9 to 5,
It's terrible.
I don't
Dude,
know how we're gonna
fully remote. I'm not coming to the office. I will. If somebody wants to hire me and they're listening to this, I will for you.
All right, that's a wrap, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Been a pleasure. Make sure to follow us at RnR Podcast everywhere. We'll see you next week. Ciao.
Amazing.